Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be in conversation and in relationship with other people as a more whole version of yourself? Well, you're not alone. And if this idea piques your interest and curiosity, I invite you to join my friend Manak Singh and myself, Dr. Node Smith, as we explore some of life's most challenging and interesting questions and social dilemmas in a conversation that is more about how we are relating to each other and to ourselves, and less about the information that we're presenting. So, welcome to the relational field. Are you open for me to just like pour my love onto you right now?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm so excited for this moment and today the opportunity to have my dear friend Dr. Brian Plant with us. Dr. Brian Plant is one of my longtime best friends, and I think one of the most conscious individuals that I've ever met. He surfs reality with full consciousness of the human suffering. And it's really amazing to watch and be a part of. I love living life with him. He's a naturopathic doctor down in Orange County, California, and I do talk about him quite a bit. So, for all of my friends who watch the podcast and have heard me talk about Brian, I'm like so giddy at the opportunity for them to meet you, Brian, and to be on this journey with us today.
I'm excited to see what we discover together here.
Amazing. What are you with, Manak?
I'm curious to know what Brian felt about that introduction.
I loved it. Yeah, felt like creamy chocolate, like nourishing, but also kind of like a dessert.
Mm.
And I'm like, am I gonna feel sick after eating this, or is it just gonna be like just great?
I love it. So we did have a topic that was alive for us this week that we wanted to jump into. Is it alive for you to bring it up?
Yeah.
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 You always phrase the topic better than I do, I think.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like that
yeah.
from here. So last time we talked about how Trump mirrors certain qualities of the left. And how much the left really needs to see him, accept him, and love him in order to integrate what's needed for the betterment of society and the country and the world at large.
Yeah.
Now, my personal interactions with the left have not been not something that I want. You know, I have a lot of judgments and projections I throw a lot of judgments and projections on them. And one of the main ones is that the left has regressed. It's not an improvement. It's not the next stage of consciousness. It feels like a previous stage.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And I know that you hold different views on this.
I do.
And I'm curious to hear that. I'm really curious to hear that. Like I feel open to it. Like I don't believe you right now because I haven't really heard you on this.
Ooh.
But I'm open to hearing. I'm open to hearing from you, and also from Ryan if he has any thoughts on this.
Oh, I'm sure he has thoughts about this. And I mean, if you thought that I was just going to jump into answering any of that question, you're like haven't been watching the podcast for long. What really comes up for me when you kind of outline that context is a comment that we got the other day about the previous podcast and how political it was. And that's a curious comment because
I don't have the sense that we're really talking about politics at all. My orientation to this conversation is as a human that lives in the world that has to navigate these things that are happening in the larger world, and how do I make sense of them, and how do I communicate them in a way that is not polarizing, that isn't supporting the conflict, but is genuinely curious about who I am in this sea of chaos and conflict, and how can I love individuals better, how can I love myself better, and how can I extend that out into the world. And I think for me a large part of that is interacting and exploring consciousness and my relationship to reality. And for me that's what we're swimming in right now. Brian, what does this topic bring up for you?
Well, it was like when I first heard it brought up, I like had all these ideas or like a lot of mental activity of like, oh, we could use this framework or we could use this framework, and then just kind of listening to what you're saying now, kind of feel like I'm being carried out to sea in a very peaceful way, but like being carried out to sea and like I actually don't know what I know. I actually don't know if I know anything. And those of you listening don't know me, so you probably don't know how disorienting of a feeling that usually is for me.
Mm.
But right now, it's like I'm kind of here for it. It's kind of got a lazy river type vibe to it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I feel like that's exactly the vibe I want to be in when I'm discussing something as something that is really presented to me in the media, social media, and things as really intense and conflict ridden. So that's a cool, like when I feel into being carried on a river out to sea, I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And right now what's coming up for me is that's something that I have a story about the more progressive demographic of individuals being a lot more readily accepting of, and also curious about. And I'm curious if that story tracks with either of you two.
I want to hear it one more time. Make
Yeah,
sure I
just
really hear it.
yeah, like as we're kind of sitting here and talking about like these images of being carried out to sea and like what that feels like and like our experience in this. I have a story that a more progressive left demographic is like generally like, and I'm stereotyping here. I acknowledge that and appreciate that. But generally, I would think would be a little more curious or accepting of that kind of language. And like, let me kind of have that type of experience without needing some concrete facts and kind of directedness in what I'm talking about.
I think with the left valuing or tending to value inclusion and pluralism. So, different points of view, different experiences, the capacity to be with that and welcome that, I think is a huge strength.
Mm-hmm.
I think where we might get stuck in an eddy or get in some more murky water is if we talk about this like people's lives aren't at stake or that there isn't real world tangible impact to
Mm.
some of these policies and ideologies that are being advanced by some of the organizations and individuals that the left are quite upset about, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious when you talk about that, and I'm very pro left on the whole. I'm very pro right on the whole too. So you can be with that paradox. But when you talk about, can you rephrase that last piece that you just said about the left championing or kind of being against certain things, certain
Well,
policies?
what I'm seeing, and I know I may not be seeing everything by any means, but what I'm seeing is a lot of folks on the left that are very angry and
Mm-hmm.
very upset about trans rights and
Mm-hmm.
some of the policies that are happening, um, economic impacts,
Mm-hmm.
and this general concern for human welfare
Yeah.
and a lot of urgency and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of energy around mobilizing. How do we respond to that? How do we protect people? And how do
Mm-hmm.
we call out what is unjust?
Yeah.
And I think being with the somatic experience of feeling carried out to sea and being like, I can be with the unknown of what I don't understand about politics and what people need, what humans need, what our society needs. I can be with that and also not be bypassing the
Mm-hmm.
reality of people suffering and the reality that there might be action that's required of me that I'm not taking right now or don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So I think I just want to context that all as being part of this.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful, and I track that it brings up into in me this idea that, and when I say this, I kind of, the context of me saying this is I have a lot of friends and family who are certainly aligned with the political right and very critical of, they have their opinions and ideas about what the left is doing. And I would say, even if there's some pathological elements within the left, the commitment to humanity and the commitment to seeing the importance of figuring this out, um, the importance of freedoms and social justice for all, um, is certainly a step in the right direction. It may need to be flushed out in terms of, are there are there elements that are kind of being missed, that are not being kind of brought up through our development, right? Certain structural elements, uh, like that are not being considered in policy. But to champion human rights and to champion justice for all, and to really look at the multifactorial elements of what shapes humanity and what shapes society, and how those are also factors of history and control and things like that. That's a very mature way of looking at reality, um, that I think is much needed in the right. I think the right needs to tip its hat to the necessity of some of those underlying values.
So I have a lot of resistance coming up in me
Okay.
to the whole thing. What's coming up in me are university committees who are opening jobs for women only, so men can't apply. What's coming up for me are biological men just beating the shit out of women in combat sports. What's coming up for me are like lean, muscular people who were men up until a year ago, after which they started taking estrogen, beating girls in swimming competitions. What's coming up for me is just the rallies where everyone's going crazy. What's coming up for me is Antifa. I don't see this as an improvement. I don't see this as an improvement in wholeness. I see this as a step back. And when you say things about, oh yeah, it's all about inclusiveness is one of their principles, and I don't disagree with that. But to me, it all sounds like when communism or socialism became a thing first, it was great in principle. Yeah. But in the way it was practiced was, no one now says that that's the way to go. Yeah. That's what's coming up for me.
I love that.
Hmm.
I absolutely love that you're here, and that I'm almost like saddened that didn't lead off the whole conversation. Hopefully people are still with us and listening, because this is exactly the argument. This is exactly that tension in culture right now that I feel. And my sense is that it's a tension that might actually not be coming from an immature right, like an immature conservative political orientation that like just wants money and just wants to dominate business and control the world and perpetuate its fantasy of freedom and all of these things. But there's a more mature right that's blossoming, that's really taken a hold of modernity, like what it's like to be a modern man or woman in the context of our economic state, our educational institutions, and what that means. And I think that there's a view to a more whole society that is trying to get into that leading edge of the political left. It's trying to take the elements or the values that the political left does have, but maybe has gone too far with. Brian, how does that sit with you?
Yeah, so I mean, what kind of keeps echoing in me is like understanding this concept called the structure versus function, or structure versus content fallacy is what I think it is. It's being talked about in integral theory, but the idea there is, let's say there's a stage of development where there are certain developmental tendencies, certain needs, certain capacities that are online, and certain values that come with that. And there are going to be people that are in our society that are living at that level of development. And then you got other people who maybe aren't embodying that level of development, but are surrounded by people who are. And so they're hearing those values, they're being exposed to it, and they're being told that it matters. But rather than embodying and integrating it and living it, they're reaching and advancing, trying to advance the agenda of those values, but from an earlier stage of development. that doesn't have the capacity to do it with the nuance and sensitivity that it deserves. So, for example, let's say you've got somebody in a pluralistic, or from an integral theory, we would say green level of development, where it's like, okay, everyone's truth is equal. We can be with complexity, we can be with plurality, and we can all get along. And we, find what's good for everybody. And these are the things we care about in order to like live this. And then you've got other people around that who maybe are more individualistic. There could be an organization or clustering of people that are advancing the values of pluralism, but from a tribalistic type way of being. And I don't mean any disrespect to indigenous folks when I say that, but like we would say amber or conformist way of being. And so now from the outside looking in, we would have a harder time differentiating between who's green pluralistic left and who's amber, conformist left. Who is doing this from a genuine desire to include more of the human experience and be comfortable with that nuance, and who is doing this from more of a react, defend, protect the group point of view. And the reason I'm spending time talking about this is I feel like it's really important for me, understanding, what's my problem with the left, or like, what's upsetting here. And it's like, when I see conformist reactionary behaviors that are being driven by shadow rage, basically rage that's been suppressed and not worked through in healthy ways, it looks destructive. And I'm making this up about what you said, Manak, but it's like that's what I connect to what you said of like, oh, okay, these are destructive manifestations. But I don't want to confuse that with a stage of development that likely is the emerging edge in our culture, that is represented by what the left is doing skillfully or defending. And I'm not attached to being right here. That's just a lens that, for me, makes a little more sense.
So I want to make sure that I understand you. What you're saying is that the examples that I was mentioning when I was talking are people who are not at the green stage of development, but they are championing those values in word, but in action, and their own internal selves are not at the green stage. Is that correct?
Yeah, I hesitate to generalize completely, but I would say as a general trend, that's my perspective. Yeah.
That's an interesting. What comes up for me is, and I'm so glad that I'm really grateful that Brian brought up like an integral model lens to look through. I've been hesitant to bring in kind of those analytical models because it's like more my uh, more my intention to just kind of be more floating in the relational space of how I'm relating to these ideas. So it's just wonderful to have a guest on who's going to kind of set that context for us. Because what comes up for me, hearing Brian kind of map that out, is the importance of having some type of model through which to look at society and how people, how myself is developing, how I'm maturing, and the trajectory of that, and how it is influenced by those around me, how it's influenced by my education, how it's influenced by what I read, who I talk with, uh, and and that I can't just assume I'm right just because I'm here. um, and that's not a value judgment. Like we're all valuable human beings. loved by God and cherished as the life forms that we are. And it doesn't mean that we are operating with the most updated operating system.
I think what I appreciate about developmental models is they give me the opportunity to kind of view my own development and then collective societal development from like a third person view. And, lest we get confused, like all models are wrong, some models are useful. But the developmental model kind of, speaking to like what you said, Node, it like takes me out of myself. It takes me out of the bias of I'm right wherever I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me something to look back on, something to look forward on, something to look inward on. That's like, oh yeah, we're all just here trying to figure this out, just being human.
Yeah.
And I feel a little more ease when I have a little bit of that scaffolding to orient around.
Yeah. And when you say that, like it really softens me. Like we're all being human together. And what comes up for me is the vehemence, the reactionary vehemence that I hear um, in our world right now. And it's like when I hear it, and I hear it in myself too. Like I have that reactionary vehemence that I have like I'll have an opinion about, let's say transgenderism, or I'll have opinions about healthcare, and they're like really firm and rigid. And when I see things that are outside of that, I I have this sense that I'm being attacked. That what I'm that's what's happening out in the world is an intentional attack on me. Now I know intellectually that that's not true, but I feel it. And so I'm reacting from that place of like, I need to defend myself against something that I'm perceiving as a personal threat. And when I see that in myself, it's like a full stop, like, do not move another inch, and just kind of reevaluate. Like, because I'm probably not seeing something.
Manak, I'm imagining that you're with something that you've either been waiting to say or wanting to say. Is that
Oh,
true?
I was really resonating with what you said. Except for me, that end stage of wait, stop, like maybe I need to reevaluate everything. That end stage usually does not happen with me when it comes to these things.
I love that.
The way I respond to it is I feel insulted. I feel like my intelligence is being insulted, and just me stepping into this, not this discussion, but me stepping into the cultural discussion just feels like it's a waste of my time, and I find myself stepping out. But I find it really eye-opening for me that there are people like you who can actually stop yourself and look inward and and make the decision to reevaluate everything. It feels inspiring. Yeah.
What's coming up for me when you say that is something similar. I think it came up for me in the last episode that we did, and I want to check and see if Brian notices anything. Brian, I sense a tremendous sadness when I hear Manak say that he just wants to like check out and not participate in it. It's like somebody who I'm getting teary-eyed again, just like talking about it. But it's like somebody who's so intelligent, who has so much to offer, and they just want to check out. And it's like a profound loss and grief like sitting inside of me. What are you with, Brian?
I mean, right now I'm just with curiosity. It's kind of like, huh, where is this? What's, yeah, where is this? But like when I try that on Manak and like put myself in that, I'm in touch with like frustration, like angst. Like there's this fire in a bottle that like that energy wants to move, but it's like, it's not going to move here. There's nowhere for it to go and like be received. Um, Not that those emotions are mutually exclusive, or maybe there's something completely different. What's it for you?
That's a good question. What is that emotion for me? Feels like resignation. Yeah, resignation from the world and a sort of retreat into my own inner world. That's what it feels like. It feels like a disengagement from culture. Yeah, the word culture itself is, I don't want to touch it. You know, that's the kind of emotion I have. It feels like it's not for me. Like it's a reality, but I'm not meant to be a part of it, or I'm not invited. Yeah, that's what it feels like.
I feel some resonance with that. I don't know if I would use personally say it like that. I feel it that strongly, but I think if I'm really honest, I spend as little energy and time as possible engaging in the political sphere, probably for that reason. I mean, there are other reasons too. Brain capacity, biological needs, things that are like I'm trying to not be addicted to stress, and so consuming media that feeds that is its own destructive thing for me. But this kind of like, we're not going to have a fruitful conversation here, so fuck it. You know, I feel that way often.
That last line really did resonate with me. It's like, what's the point? You know,
the point. Yeah.
So it seems like we're starting to point to something that is like underneath a lot of this. And I imagine it's not just underneath it for us, but underneath it for a lot of people as well, which is how do we relate to the feelings we have of feeling frustrated, disappointed, despondent, or giving up when our political views or nuanced opinions aren't understood, or when we don't feel like we can have fruitful conversations with each other.
I like that. That really does feel like the context.
Yeah. Yeah, when I hear that question, I just want to, like, I keep coming back to this, but like I want to love more ferociously. Like I want to be able to extend myself from my own love for myself out into relationships. And I don't mean relationships that are like, I don't want to be like on a political like platform or anything like that, but I just mean like, my mom, my dad, my friends. Like I want to be able to communicate my wholeness to them, and I think that that's enough for me. Like I feel confident that if I could do that, that I would be taking a political stand in the culture that's happening right now.
There seems to be something really profound that happens when, well, let me just say this in maybe more of an owned way. I have been surprised by the effects that occur in my relationships when I show up accepting myself and I was going to say accepting my wholeness, but like embracing the parts of myself that I don't want to embrace, that are painful, that are messy, that are confusing. And when I do that, when I fully own my experience and trust myself, it has this effect that seems to be like disarming for everybody. And then now they get to be with more of themselves. And sometimes it's the other way around. Other people are doing that, and now I get to be with more of myself. And so there's something to that I've been really chewing on this week of like, what if my only job is to love the parts of myself that are being activated by whatever the relational conflict or whatever this other person is doing is bringing up in me. And if I can love those parts of myself and be okay with what's arising, then there's this whole nother floor that opens up of choice. And maybe skillfulness comes from that place.
When I hear that, I just want to like touch it. And just
I'm curious more about that. Like, is it an object? What kind of object?
Yeah, like silk,
Ah,
pleasing to the senses and inviting. I want more of it. I want to try it on. Want to languish in it. And I also find great resonance in what you said and what Brian said. It's about loving ferociously, and I guess it starts with loving those parts of you ferociously that are hurt, or are disengaged, or have been repressed.
and it's vulnerable as fuck. Like, I don't want to pretend that this is just some hippy dippy, woo woo, feel good, self-nurturing practice. I mean, it's warrior energy sometimes. It's like, I don't want to be okay with this experience. I don't know what to do with this energy that I'm sitting with that wants to punch holes in walls. I don't know what to do with the depth of my longing, knowing I may never get this need met in this lifetime. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? And I feel myself getting amped up right now as we're talking about it. Like, I want to flip some tables. Like that too. It's ferocious love. It's sometimes it's angry. It's fierce.
Yeah, I was literally going to like get on that exact same soapbox. Like literally was about to open my mouth when Brian started talking and say almost exactly the same thing.
Is there more? It's like we're making a stew and we just added some ingredients. And it's like, oh, what else does it need?
I guess what comes up for me is, in the context of, the men's group that we're in, and like men's groups in general, and like this reclaiming of masculinity is like the hardest, most courageous thing that we can possibly do in our lives is learn about ourselves, like take that internal journey into our shadow, into the parts of ourselves that like we don't want to look at, and learn how to connect with emotion and connect with what we want, our desires. I mean, those are the things that are the hardest things to do. I mean, anybody can buy a big axe and, cut wood, in the forest. I mean, that's not ultimately that difficult.
Or buy a gun and shoot a bunch of people.
Yeah, or buy a gun, or I mean, there's a lot of things that, that are a lot easier to do than that.
Then look inside and face ourselves.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why most people don't do it.
And I agree. And for me personally, it is the single greatest return on investment of anything I've ever done.
Oh.
Everything is better.
Hands down.
It's just that every single day, whatever that emerging edge is the scariest thing.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, it's like, oh wow, we've got capacity in places we never had capacity before.
Mm-hmm.
We have love. We can give and receive love in places that we've never been able to do that before. Didn't even know existed a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm addicted to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on that bandwagon too. Yeah, I'm having some incredible breakthroughs with extending love and into areas that I have been very resistant to, and very convinced that I was correct, that I was thinking about things accurately. Um, and it's a curious thing. I still would assess my opinions as being accurate, but I can see clearly now that there was not love involved. And adding that love into it, and really concentrating on extending that love outward, right? Like inward and outward, like simultaneously, like love for myself, and then seeing how that wants to extend outward. It changes everything.
I'm really glad you said that, because a common fear that I have when I think about, well, what would love do in this situation? A common fear that I have is, if I get into that state or somehow find that perspective, I'm going to invalidate reality as it exists. Like I'm going to overlook something or change my mind on something that is actually not aligned with what reality is. So for you to say that, oh, like my opinion is still the same, it's just that now I'm approaching it with love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that really felt very inviting. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, sometimes, so like I do a lot of arts work, internal family systems, which is like relating to different sub selves, I guess, sub parts of self. And there are parts that are protective, that are defending something, usually my vulnerability, but like a specific angle of my vulnerability, that some of them have a lot of power and a lot of energy, a lot of anger or whatever, protective fire and intensity. And loving them and practicing loving them sometimes does change my state. Sometimes it does reduce some of the urgency and intensity that I might have historically needed to get something done. Let's say I'm trying to mobilize for action and I can't do it now. I've lost some of that potency. So like that can happen, but it often opens up and now there's more of me online. So it's like, okay, protector that was really holding on to that really tightly and like advancing a particular angle is now relaxed, not gone, but here. And now there's other parts of me. And so now I can proceed as a whole human being or with more of my wholeness in my experience. And that, I want to say almost all the time is worth it for me, even if it means I lose a little bit of performative power or activation energy. That makes sense.
it makes sense to me.
I don't know.
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
it tracks.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, when I like what I really like latched onto when you were talking there was wholeness. That this is about becoming more whole and including more of ourselves. It's not about resisting or getting rid of things that we don't like. It's really about becoming more whole, right? Like including all those things in a way that integrates them into ourselves, which is a really, I mean, for me, it's a very profound uh, way to look at things, because so often I just want to get rid of something. I'm like, oh, I don't like this part of myself. I don't like that I, can be an asshole, sometimes, and be kind of mean spirited and judgmental, and that's a part of me. It's a protector part. But the more I resist that and don't show it compassion and kindness and learn about it, the more it just operates in the background. And then the more fragmented I get. Whereas when I see it and I say, oh, Node, I love you. You're an asshole. And I love you. I start to really open up and see that, oh, that edge is a legitimate part of my personality, and that the assholeness is like a pathological manifestation of it, and it really is just trying to defend against something. And if I can see that, then all of a sudden I feel a lot more comfortable in myself, and I feel more whole.
Yeah, and I would add, it's protecting something that's important to you.
Yeah.
And so, like, that matters to Node.
Yeah.
It just, doesn't, there may be other options available that part doesn't see. And
Yeah.
so a question I love that my IFS therapist often asks me is, to ask that part,
And we're at time.
what are you afraid would happen if you didn't come out so big?
Ooh.
And then I'll ask that part, well, I'm afraid I'll be alone forever. I'm afraid of whatever. And then it's like, okay, how do you feel toward that part? Well, when I hear that, I feel compassion, or when I hear that, I feel sympathetic grief, or what have you. And then it's like, for me, that's what untangles it in a gentler way. Because I'm realizing the part is me. It's just not all of me.
Mm. Oh yeah. Can you rephrase that, and we'll end on that question? What would happen if?
What are you afraid would happen if you didn't come out so big?
If that part didn't come out so
Yeah,
big?
like you asked the part that directly.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I particularly love that way of asking it because it's not so confrontational.
Yeah.
Like when I ask it, what are you afraid of? It's like, whoa, you're shining the floodlight on me. Like, cops just pulled me over, and it's like, oh shit, it's whereas when I'm like, hey, I'm with you.
Mm.
Help me understand why you're here showing up in the way that you're showing up, not because you have to justify yourself, but because there's something you want me to know you care about. What
Mm.
is that?
Oh,
And then how am I impacted by the hearing of that?
I love that.
It's so powerful.
Oh yeah. I love you, brother. Thank you.